Thank you for joining us for this episode of Frog Talk, an Auction Frogs podcast series all about events and fundraising in a post-2020 world. For more information on Auction Frogs and the services we offer, visit auctionfrogs.org today.
Hi, this is Corey Michaels. Thank you so much for joining me for another edition of Frog Talk, your leap into fundraising. And today on the podcast, we're going to be talking about podcasts. Is a podcast right for your nonprofit? Well, the simple answer is yes, as long as you're willing to do a couple of things. All right, let's start with why you should do a podcast. Well, according to Infinite Dial 18, podcast listening is up almost 75% since 2017. Over 50% of all U.S. households are podcast fans. 150 million of the U.S. population has listened to a podcast. That is up almost 50% since 2017. So when we talk about growing your donor base, it's getting the word out there. What is your nonprofit? Who is it benefiting? Those are the things that you can share each and every week, each and every month, to be able to continue to expand your donor base and increase their passion for your cause. That's why it was so important for all of us at Auction Frogs to start the podcast here and also to be able to have that available for nonprofits all around the country, all around the world, to be able to share their story. Not only are we able to do our own podcast, we're also able to record podcasts for nonprofits everywhere and to be able to get that word out there, to teach you what are the good practices of a podcast. Now, whether you want to do it in your own facility or if you want to be able to schedule time in our Auction Frogs studio, all of us at Auction Frogs are here to be able to guide you through the process. First thing we're going to do once you call is we'll schedule a time, and then we'll be able to get together and talk about all the steps to be able to create your podcast and to start getting your message out to all of your fans, to all of your donor base. And we're going to start with the very basics. Why? Why are you doing a podcast? Who is it for? There's over 1 million different podcasts out there. So why should they listen to your podcast? Once we determine all that, then we can get into naming your podcast, how long episodes should last, how often you should be releasing those, good titles, choosing a podcast format, and then we'll get into recording equipment, recording and editing software, how to be able to script the show out, all the way to the basics of if you've never talked into a microphone before, how do you do that? How do you record a guest if they can't be in the studio with you? Editing your podcast, music, bumper music, getting all of your imaging together around that, creating your podcast cover art. Yes, we can do all of that, including deciding what is going to be the best host for you, for your podcast, and for your organization, and how to be able to get that out to all the different streaming services. There's several ways that we can be able to do this. If when we get into the technology, everything starts seeming a little overwhelming for you, it's okay, because we have these studios here at Auction Frogs to be able to record, edit, and take care of everything from start to finish for you, or to be able to guide you and consult you and be able to get you set up for your podcast studio in your own facility. Whatever is going to be best for you and your nonprofit, that's what we're here to be able to help you with. And it all starts with just giving us a call. A perfect example is the Women and Children's Alliance of Boise, Idaho. We had worked with them on several different fundraisers over the years, and they gave us a call starting of January of 2021 and said, we have to be able to get 6 episodes of a podcast done before the end of January for a grant. We don't know what to do. We're not sure how to be able to get this done. We want to be able to do this ourselves in our own facility. Help. I met with Tracy, one of the wonderful staff there at the Women and Children's Alliance, and talked about what they needed to get done, what they were trying to achieve with their podcast, went over all the things that you and I just talked about. Then in 10 days to 2 weeks, we had 6 episodes, all recorded, all mastered, including the intros and outros, bumper music, all of that, where it was ready for them to be able to just upload to their podcast hosting service and ready to be able to get that out to people. Here's a little snippet of what we did for the WCA, as well as Tracy with the Women and Children's Alliance, talking about her experience with Auction Frogs and going through the whole podcast process.
Welcome to The Prevention Perspective, a podcast dedicated to sharing information, ideas, and resources about violence prevention work. The topics discussed in this podcast, including healthy relationships, prevention practices, and dating or sexual violence, can be difficult, and we urge you to listen with care. Our hosts are not licensed counselors or mental health professionals. If you or someone you care about have experienced domestic, dating, or sexual violence, please call the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-7233. You can also find more resources in the description of this podcast.
Welcome once again to another episode of Prevention Perspective. I'm Corey Michaels along with Tracy DeMarcus and our special guest today, Alyssa Burnham, the Community Outreach Educator for Planned Parenthood. Alyssa, thank you for being with us.
Hi, it's good to be here.
Well, today we're going to be talking about consent culture, but let's start with, what is a community outreach educator?
It's a really cool job, in my opinion. I really enjoy it. I get to do outreach and education here in Boise. I work with a lot of schools and various other organizations doing a lot of content centered around sex education, reproductive health, reproductive justice. I get to work with a group of teens, just really incredible teens in a peer education group.
Auction Frogs has been great to work with. We came to them with a project that we had a pretty tight timeline on, and I was feeling really anxious about. And Corey and the team here were really awesome to work with in making sure that we got our content created in time. It was so super easy to get everything scheduled and set up and recorded with them. Really took a lot of the stress and the anxiety out of this project. And I'm so grateful that they were able to do this with us and that we were able to work with them and learn. And
would you work with Auction Frogs again, and would you recommend Auction Frogs to other nonprofits?
Absolutely. I think that working with Auction Frogs has been one of the easiest. I mean, I've been on a lot of projects, and we've had some partners that are hard to get a hold of, or they don't call you back for a very long time, or just kind of non-responsive. And a lot of times too, because we're nonprofit and people are doing things either at a discount or giving us a good deal or something like that, they don't have the same level of service necessarily. But I have not experienced that whatsoever with Auction Frogs, and they've been so great and responsive and quick and creative and giving us ideas for our projects. And they have so much cool stuff. I would love to come back and be able to do like videos and some of the other cool things that they're doing. So yeah, definitely would work with them again.
Now, what is going to be right for you? I would love to sit down and talk with you and find out what is going to be right for you to get your message, your story arc of your nonprofit out for everyone to be able to hear. Share where the generosity from the years before have gone to be able to benefit your organization so that all of your donor base knows, hey, look at where my money has gone, and I want to be able to give more because here's the next segment. Or someone that really needs your services that maybe doesn't even know you exist can be able to find out about you, to contact you, and to hopefully be able to make their lives better because of the incredible work that you're already doing. Podcasts are absolutely one of the best ways to be able to get your message out there. Share what you have to say. You have a story. That's why you're doing what you're doing. Now tell your story. Get it out there. It's real simple to get started. All of our contact info is in the description of this podcast, or just give us a call now. 208-321-5515.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Frog Talk, an Auction Frogs podcast series all about events and fundraising in a post-2020 world. For more information on Auction Frogs and the services we offer, visit auctionfrogs.org today.